42 minutes of heaven. We call the D1Baseball.com Thursday night weekend preview. Multi-guest quad box this evening. I am your host, Michael Patrick Rooney, joined by Aaron Fitt, who is straddling state lines. We don't even know where he is. We've got Kendall Rogers, and we've got we've got brass in this week, boys. The leader of the enterprise, KP, Kyle Peterson. KP, let me start with you. It sounds like the big let me start with this. When we talk about Omaha, there's quality hashtag game in Omaha.
Okay.
What was the one that you shared with us the other day? The Good Life? Is that right? Is that a city of Omaha hashtag?
Oh, it's the state of Nebraska. Come on, Rooms.
Oh, that's the state.
The entire state. Yeah. I mean, Nebraska is universally known as the Good Life. I'm surprised you didn't know that.
So the Mavs, the Omaha Mavs, I think what they go with is everyone for Omaha or something like that, which is, that's kind of accurate also. Although they did get whacked by Arkansas the other night. Well, that was disappointing.
They beat the Bruins.
That's right. They did do that. Fitzy, where are you going? Where are you headed? Tell the people.
I'm on my way to the Georgia Tech series, which should be fun. So I did stop. Quick story time here.
Please.
I did stop, returned to the scene of the crime today on my way down. Stopped and played at the Preserve at Verde. You may recall I made a hole in one there in November. I don't know if you guys heard that.
That's right. Heard rumors.
Oh, jeez.
So, for an encore, everybody there on the way down, and I was able to squeeze in some holes. And second hole of the day, pull a 9-iron, 135, a little easy breezy 9-iron right at the pin. We hear it. You don't see it ricochet anywhere. You walk up there. Ball's in the hole, Kyle.
You dunked it?
That's number 2.
Same course?
Wow.
Same
Today?
Course. Today. Number 2. Same course. I made one 3 months ago with the same guy. Like back-to-back rounds of the same
Nice.
course. 30-plus years playing this game, and then back-to-back rounds of the same course.
Hey, but different holes.
Different holes.
That's
You
a
should
really
have texted
cool
me this so I could do a Raj bomb for
No,
it.
I was saving it for the live stream. This is breaking news. For the
Okay.
viewers.
As you should.
This is big
That's
news.
good.
This might be the
So-
biggest world news of the week.
Yeah, certainly.
Hey, Fitt, it still doesn't go on an expense report. Okay. So
I mean,
I'm happy for you. I believe me, but don't try to sneak that into an expense report.
I had to buy beers for the whole clubhouse. That goes on the expense report, right?
That's fair enough.
That's impressive.
So Fitzy, the first hole one was an 8-iron. This was a 9-iron. Is that correct?
That's right.
That's awesome. Kendall, now that you've joined, KP, only you can answer this question. So Kendall will be at the Shriners College Classic this weekend with the great Stitchhead, the man with one name, the seal of college baseball, if you will, the prince of college baseball.
The seer of all seers.
That's right. That too. So KP, we'd like to get a ruling, and if you want to defer or pass, I think that's fair too. So Stitch tomorrow morning for the morning game. Did we blow a circuit?
It's those damn Russians again.
Oh no. We need to get Kyle to sign off on Stitch having Bloody Marys at the Minute Maid. But I think we just blew it out.
This is amazing timing.
Well, Nick Jones is asking if Mississippi State will severely drop. Whew. I mean, it's not great, right? Not great, Bob. I think it would be the hashtag for Hail State right now.
Early.
Yeah, it's a big weekend for those guys. I mean, you go on the road to play Tulane and
Russians.
Yeah, it's those freaking Russians always causing trouble. No, that is a big weekend for Mississippi State. Oh, we got Kyle back. So continue your question.
Yeah, KP, if you can hear me, the question is Stitch is covering the morning games at the Shriners College Classic, and we're wondering if Bloody Marys are in play for Stitch, or is that frowned upon at D1Baseball.com? Oh, you're muted.
Oh no! Oh no!
We lost that.
Unmute yourself.
Uh-oh.
Unmute yourself.
If we can read lips. How's that?
Oh.
KP's a mime this show. No.
You let
That's well played right there. It is video. It is video.
Oh.
All right. All right, so let's, boys. What do you think about this? We'll jump in and we will catch KP up. He can think about the great Bloody Mary
Everybody's getting
saga.
loopy. It's Thursday night. We're all loopy already.
That's right. I almost put a tweet out there today.
Here it comes back. We'll see if we
College baseball players and coaches, show us your snacks. I mean, you gotta have good snacks on travel day. Let's see. I can hear something.
Are we here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah. So continue the question. Let's ask it third time's a charm, Roon.
Yeah, no, yeah. I heard the question and I answered the question. Just no one could hear my answer to the question. So when covering morning games, when there's 3 games in a day at a tournament, Bloody Marys are actually encouraged if offered.
Ooh.
That's right.
Now they're not always offered, and I think that's the biggest thing. And
yeah.
They probably should be more than they actually are.
I'm texting that to Stitch right now as we speak.
That's I think you need to. I think it's assumed on his part. Yeah. But yes, we that Fitt can actually go on an expense report.
That's right.
There we go.
Yeah, it's funny, Kendall. To your point, I don't think Stitch is what we would call your classic rule follower. He's more.
Yeah, I think
trailblazer.
I think Stitches do it and ask questions later.
Yes, that's it. All right, boys, let's get to the college baseball content portion of the show. So let's start. There's some series that really stand out. So here's how I want to frame it. The Shriners College Classic is really the elite event of the weekend. I'm going to name the 6 teams in the tournament. Hopefully, I'm going to do that accurately. And then what I'd like you guys to do is pick the team in the tournament that you're most curious about, the team that you really are going to be mostly focused on. All right, so the teams are Oklahoma, Texas, and Baylor out of the Big 12. We've got Tennessee and LSU out of the SEC, and then we've got UCLA. OU, Texas, Baylor, Tennessee, LSU, and UCLA. KP, you're the guest of honor. Of those 6 teams, what's the one that you're most curious about headed into the Minute Maid deal?
Probably Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the biggest is obviously they haven't played a great schedule so far, but their numbers are obscene.
Mm-hmm.
They've had 25 home runs. The ERA is below 1. You get 2 different just stupid loud numbers. And I think the biggest question when we get in the first 4 weeks, 5 weeks of the season is you don't really know sometimes based on who teams play. The stats can be way inflated, but the reality is you don't know until teams get into conference or until they get into a situation like they're going to be in this weekend. So they lost a lot. That was the biggest question. What are they going to be on the mound? The reality is, the numbers are obscene. Trey Lipscomb has 22 RBIs already, 22 stakes in 8 or 9 games. I don't know what it is. I understand that the schedule has been light. That's still a large number. So that's the one that sticks out the most to me.
KP, it's disappointing that you brought him up. I believe he's a beef jerky czar. Is that correct, Fitzy? Trey Lipscomb?
$1 steal for the Czars in the preseason. Listen, you can't stop.
That's a pretty good pick for $1.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah. Fitzy, since the Czars are shining so brightly, why don't you give us your team?
Yeah, really intrigued by UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously we talked about what really caught my eye is how well they've pitched. I think they've given up 2 runs in their last 4 games. Granted, it was Riverside, but then Long Beach, they shut them out midweek. Jake Brooks has been really good. Max Radjic and Austin, Kelly Austin. 3 guys that all pitched really well last weekend. Let's see how they do against top competition. All these SEC and Big 12 teams. We got the one Pac-12 team trying to crash the party, and I'm just really fascinated by this team. I just think that the range of outcomes is wide, but the upside is so high if all those young guys can really find their strides.
I'm with you on that. That's going to be super interesting. KR, what are you thinking? Who's the club you'd lean into here?
Well, the Chris Burke U is my pick, but KP took it. So I'm going to go with LSU. I just think when you look at LSU, obviously we all expected their offense to be potent this year, but, they haven't played the greatest competition in the last couple of weeks. And I'd just be very interested to see that offense against Jake Bennett tomorrow afternoon for Oklahoma. Bennett was really good the last time I saw him at Globe Life a couple of weeks ago. We'll see if you can kind of emulate that performance against LSU's hard-hitting club. And then when you look at the Saturday matchup, you have Tristan Stevens, a guy who just absolutely pounds his zone with precision going against that LSU lineup. So it's just seeing the difference in the matchup between the LSU offense and those 2 pitchers. And then also Blake Money. I mean, that's kind of been the big storyline for LSU the last couple of weeks is just the 2 starts that he's given them. He's been electric. It's one thing to be electric against Maine at the box, and it's another thing to see if you can be electric against Oklahoma at Minute Maid Park. I'll be very curious to see how he looks tomorrow.
Yeah, that's another good one. I'll tell you, like Texas to me is like the most sure thing. The one that I'm curious about is Baylor. I mean, I was obviously, you guys know, I was really high on them in the preseason. They just absolutely broke my heart, getting swept by Maryland the first week, and all that looks like more of a reflection of Maryland than them. And then they came back nicely against Duke, so I think this is a real opportunity. The thing for Baylor is Jared McKenzie hasn't got going yet, and that's a All-American caliber player if he can get going. So talented, but man, it's going to be an awesome tournament, and and if they're serving Bloody Marys, then it really gets awesome. So there you go,
everybody
Team
knows
Bloody
that.
Mary. Let's do this, boys, for the other big series. I'm gonna name this series, and we'll go around the hand. Just give me one aspect of this series that you're curious about, or it could be a player, could be a part of a team that you're thinking about for this series. So let's start with the one Fitzy's going to, Georgia and Georgia Tech. I believe that's one of those ones where they split. They kind of go back and forth between the home sites. KP, Georgia and Georgia Tech, one aspect of one of those teams that has got you intrigued there.
So I played with Marquise Grissom Sr., not
Nice.
Marquise Grissom Jr., and I see the number is the same when I see him on the mound. So it's cool and also a little bit deflating when you see someone's son in college baseball that you actually played with.
It's not great.
But I saw him up to 97 that last weekend. And it's these, I mean, you got Georgia Tech, you got Clemson, South Carolina. Which one am I missing? There's another really good one this weekend that's a border war.
Clemson,
Florida,
South
Miami.
Carolina, you said. Oh, yeah, there you
Florida,
go.
Miami. So, I mean, you got those 3 this weekend leading into conference that are really good. But, yeah, give me Junior Grip this weekend, see what it looks like.
Oh, I like that. Fitzy, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so many different things I'm intrigued with here, but one of them is, can anyone stop this Georgia Tech offense? And I think Georgia has really good pitching, but I mean, look at the numbers that Kevin Parada has put up once again. Remember, he tore up non-conference schedule last year, and then he kind of cooled off in ACC play. And I want to see him, keep on tearing it up against really good arms. And right now he's hitting 514, with 6 bombs. I mean, it's nuts. And then Chandler Simpson, a guy that I kept raving about in the fall, hitting 485. He's got 8 steals already. He's right there with Enrique Bradfield. Is just a total game changer on the base paths. I just think this team is really exciting. The question is, can Georgia actually, with their quality arms, can they actually keep this offense in check? And can Georgia Tech pitch enough? I mean, that's the one thing that remains a question mark. Is we know Georgia Tech's going to score a boatload of runs this year. They're already doing that, but how are they going to do against a quality offense? I mean, can they get consistent starts? Can they piece together in the bullpen? I just think there's a lot of things still up in the air with that pitching staff. So it's like, strength versus strength, Georgia's pitching versus Georgia Tech's offense. And then, question marks maybe with the Georgia Tech offense. We'll see how that goes.
Yep. KR, what are you thinking on this one?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Aaron on the starting pitching for Georgia Tech. I mean, I think all 4 of us really kind of coming into the season, we all were 100% sold on Georgia Tech's offense, but it was kind of the pitching staff with Maxwell, Grissom, and guys like that we had kind of question marks about. Not necessarily their talent, but just their ability to go out there, be starters, be consistent week in and week out. And I'm very curious to see how they are against a Georgia team who I don't feel like overly powerful offensively, but they certainly have a lot of experience and they're going to have some mature at bats. So that's going to be a big test for Georgia Tech's pitching.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. Like, neither is a perfect team, and it's almost like whose carrying strength matters more. Is the run prevention of Georgia better than the dynamic offense of Georgia Tech? And yeah, this is a really cool series because the styles are so different. I think there's going to be a lot to learn there. Next one I got for you guys is Cal at Florida State. Is a really interesting season. I actually got to speak to Mike Martin Jr., Meat, as we call him this week, and kind of asked, Meat, like, hey, why are you guys playing Cal? Like, that's a weird series. And Meat's like, I actually don't know. But he said, where was Mike New before? And we said Pacific. He's like, oh, that's right. 11 used to play Pacific. So that's why Cal's on the schedule. So that was classic meat. But KP, I'll start with you. The Golden Bears against the Seminoles. What intrigues you here?
Well, I mean, we saw each other in Arizona 2 weeks ago, and Cal looked really good down there.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, I love the fact that somebody, Cal or anybody else, is going across the country to play preseason or pre-conference, I guess. Florida State's so interesting because, forever it's been, are they going to pitch enough? They're going to hit, they're going to get on base. Now it's totally the flip. They're going to pitch. If you look at the first 2 weeks, I mean, Messick's been great, but across the board, they've been really good. And I think that's what's interesting this weekend. Cal's been tested, obviously, already. I mean, they were tested in Arizona. They passed the test. And I like these type of teams that are never going to see each other until like regionals or supers hit to play each other before. They're fun early season matchups. Florida State looks like a potential Omaha team. Cal could surprise some people this weekend based on what they've looked like so far.
Yep. Fitzy, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, I mean, Cal is just a mystery team to me because they come out the first weekend. They play great at that MLB4 tournament. Kyle said Houston, TCU, San Diego State. They beat all those teams. And then they lose a home series to UIC, next week. And the bats kind of went cold in those two losses. They did score a bunch of runs in the middle game. But, I mean, I feel like there's some firepower in this Cal lineup. Obviously, Dylan Beavers being the headliner. But I want to see some consistency here, out of that lineup. And I don't know that going to face this Florida State pitching staff is necessarily the medicine you need to get your bats going because between Messick and Bryce Hubbard and Ross Dunn, you got three real legit power lefties who can all spin the heck out of it. Good luck. I just think I've been saying all year long, I think Florida State is right there with Texas for the best pitching staffs in the country. And I expect them to, continue to pitch well all season long.
Excellent. KR?
I'm just looking forward to the Friday night matchup. You have
Yes.
Josh White against Parker Messick. Josh White has 20 strikeouts in 11 innings, and Messick has 24 and 12. That's pretty good, guys. So I just think when you look at that big-time pitching match between those two guys, it probably is the best pitching matchup of the weekend in college baseball, really. I mean, I'm trying to think of a better one.
Yep. Yeah, and I think to Fitzy's point, like Hubbard was just this really talented wild card last year, and he seems to have graduated to absolute monster this year. And so his numbers are crazy. And then, you guys mentioned Dylan Beavers. This is a 5-tool, 6'4" left-handed hitter.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw what Messick and Hubbard did to Chase DeLauder 2 weeks ago of JMU, who's really ranked ahead. I think he's ranked ahead. I'm sure he's ranked ahead of Dylan Beavers. So it's a real opportunity for Dylan Beavers to make some hay as far as his draft profile goes. So, yeah, I'm with you. It's going to be a fun one. Well, all right, this is huge. Florida at Miami. I'm not sure if you guys saw Judd Fabian's quote on Twitter. Nick De La Torre's Twitter feed is worth looking at there. Fabian just basically said, look, like, we don't care for them. They don't care for us. Let's get on the bus and do this thing. It's pretty awesome. So Florida, it's actually Florida at Miami. KP, what are you thinking about here?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like old school, just teams and schools that don't like each other matchups are awesome. I mean, I grew up watching Nebraska, Oklahoma, and Jamel Holloway and the Wishbone come into Omaha and
so good,
or come into Lincoln and like that. That was Big 8 days, but those types of rivalries are good for any sport, and I think it's good for this sport. I mean, listen, I think there's a lot of questions about Miami just because of what they lost, and ultimately from a Florida standpoint, you get two Fabians in a lineup right now. I know Judd hit 2 home runs the other day. The biggest question with Judd is, can he do it like on a weekend against big arms as opposed to in the midweek? And if he does, I think he's got all the talent in the world. But he just wasn't able to do that consistently last year. And then what happens on the weekend after Barco for Florida? You know what Barco's going to be pitching staff-wise after that. I think those are the questions. But still, I think Florida's looked pretty good so far. And I hope these two teams, and I think they will play every year in the preseason. I wish that Florida State would play on a weekend instead of 3 Tuesdays, because I think it would create a better matchup during the course of the year. But at any rate, we get 6, and this weekend is one that they're probably not going to make a lot of friends.
No addresses being exchanged this
No.
weekend. Fitzy?
It's fascinating how Florida's pitching has so far been structured. I mean, it's not necessarily guys that you would expect in the roles that they're in, besides Barco. I mean, Timmy Manning was almost a forgotten guy. I feel like after last year,
Yeah.
but he was a high-profile
Yeah.
recruit as a left-hander out of high school. Can really spin the breaking ball, and I think he's been working as their Sunday guy. The freshman lefty Philip Abner, who I think is just a stud. But I thought he was going to be their closer, and Sully kind of indicated that in the fall that he thought he was going to be their closer, and he pitched on Saturday last week and didn't do great. So, I mean, I haven't seen their rotation. I don't know if you guys have. I don't know if they've shaken it up at all.
Coppola's got a back thing, and so I think that's an issue for them. They want him to be in the rotation. He has only made one start so far.
Yeah, but I mean, there's so many arms on that staff, and I think it's Sully's never afraid to take his time figuring out how all those pieces fit together. But on the Miami side, I mean, they need to get Alejandro Rosario going. He has not gotten off to a very good start. He's got all kinds of talent, of course, huge arm strength. But let's see how he does in this big matchup. And then, Carson Palmquist has made a really good transition, like Landon Sims. Both guys were all-American closers last year. They both have made seamless transitions to the rotation. And Palmquist has been awesome. And, I just think that guy's as nasty as it gets, man, in college baseball right now. I mean, talking about like sidearm, maybe below sidearm lefty who's 90-92, ridiculous life and can spin it. It's just like, I don't know how you hit that guy, but I think it'd be fun to watch him against that really good Florida offense. And Miami needs to play better defense. I think from what I understand, that's been an issue in the early going. So we'll see if they can get that cleaned up.
Hey, and just before Kendall, you go. So Rosario not pitching this weekend or not in the rotation. It's going to be Palmquist, Lejeune, and Jake Garland. So
he's been good too. Garland has.
But yeah, it's been really good. Yeah.
I don't know if he's healthy or not. I assume he is. It's just maybe struggling early and try to give.
Yeah, I think it sounds like healthy, but just trying to trying to get his head right, kind of thing. Give him a breath, kind of deal.
We all need that sometimes.
That's right. I'd like a month at least.
Yeah.
KR?
I think the biggest thing for me looking at this series, I think it means a lot more to Florida in terms of just kind of reestablishing who that program is. I mean, you look back at last year, and if you look back at that series with Miami last year, Florida's bullpen was an absolute mess. And I really felt like that weekend and the way their bullpen performed against Miami that weekend kind of just set the tone for what was a really weird year for Florida. I mean, obviously they ended the season hosting a regional, but still, it just wasn't the Florida we're used to. And I just think, I think people kind of had some pause opening weekend when they lost that series of Liberty. They now won 7 straight. If they go on the road and take the series from Miami, I think we're starting to feel a little bit more like, okay, Florida's kind of, clean the slate, so to speak. They're kind of back on track. I think if they lose a series, I think we're still kind of so-so on them.
Yeah. Kendall, what you just said, I'm going to just double down on that. Like, I think both programs are just, we're trying to figure them out a little bit, and it's going to be, it's going to be fascinating to see. You guys mentioned it, the Barco-Palmquist matchup on Friday night, and then you go White-Messick. I mean, some of these Friday night matchups we're starting to run into college baseball. I know it's not a great pitcher class, but, and again, to your point, Fitzy, like Palmquist might be the safest pick in this draft. Like, if he stays healthy, I don't see how he's not a big leaguer, at least as a, end of the game.
Yeah,
reliever.
somewhere. I agree.
Yeah. So anyway, that stuff's nasty. Hey, Mark S., I see you in the chat with your Ricky Dixon, Lydell Carr, and Blair Varnes, which is that's you're showing a lot of skill right there. Old school Florida State players, old school Oklahoma football players. I'm going to raise you a Keith Jackson, the tight end for Oklahoma, was always absolutely nude streaking down the center of the field back in the day.
I was there.
Eagle. Come on, of course you love him. Fine.
Oh, I love it. Boys, let's do Clemson, South Kakalaki. Speaking of series where people get their feelings hurt. KP, what do you got on South Carolina, Clemson?
Yeah, I mean, this one's interesting, right? So, I mean, Clemson hadn't lost yet. South Carolina's lost once. You look in South Carolina's lineup, and there's a fair amount of new names. And it's one of those every year that people do get their feelings hurt, especially the fans, because everybody thinks that their team is going to win every game. Incredibly, that doesn't always happen. I think it goes along the lines of Georgia Tech, Florida, Miami, to where these are the ones that need to happen every year because they can get a better idea, right? I mean, coming into it, you don't really know what they both are. But you got a lot better idea after the course of the weekend. It feels like advantage Clemson going into it over the course of the weekend, but I mean, whatever. Things can change really quickly. I think the thing with South Carolina is there's been a fair amount of turnover. And so you don't know exactly what is going to happen as they get into the course of the season, and we're going to figure that out pretty quick.
Love it. Fitzy, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about South Carolina on the mound right now. I think they just lost James Hicks to Tommy John surgery, a really good JUCO transfer arm that had been pitching on Saturdays for them. Julian Bosnick has yet to pitch this year. I think he's dealing with like a flexor strain or something. That was, the reason that I guess we were optimistic about South Carolina heading into the year was mostly that 1-2 punch, right? Will Sanders and Bosnick. So I don't know, what Bosnick's status is. I don't think he's not going to pitch this weekend. I'd be shocked if he did. And so, I think even Josiah Seitler's banged up a little bit. He's got like an oblique deal or something. And he was like another rotation option. So I just wonder, I mean, it feels like Clemson right now has so much more stability in the rotation with Anglin and Hoffman and Clayton. I mean, those are all guys that have been around a few years now. I mean, they've got some innings under the belt, and sure, they're bigger roles this year. But so far, it's been so good. I mean, all those guys have solid stuff and pitchability and experience. So it feels like on paper, this matchup favors Clemson. And we'll just see with all those young guys in the lineup for the Gamecocks too, and the uncertainty in the mound. I mean, you've got, I think, freshmen, first two spots in the lineup. There's like 3 or 4 freshmen in their lineup every night. I mean, South Carolina's a team that's going to have to figure it out on the fly, and we'll see what they're made of.
KR.
Yeah, I picked Clemson in this. I just think when you look at Clemson, Mac Anglin has yet to give up a run this year. I think it's 10 innings of work and 2 starts. I mean, he's obviously off to a great start. And I think when you look at Clemson offensively, Caden Grice has been terrific as expected. And then Tyler Corbett, the Citadel transfer, you never know how those guys make that transition to the mid-major leagues to the bigger leagues, and he's done a terrific job. I want to say he's their leading hitter right now with like a 390 average. So those two guys have been wrecking balls offensively, and with Mac Anglin, I just like I like the run that Clemson's on. And I saw Indiana last weekend, and Clemson made pretty easy work of the Hoosiers, and Indiana has some talent. So it's not like they've just played total garbage the first couple of weeks. Indiana's not a bad team. So I like Clemson in this series.
Yeah, I can't remember who I picked, but the player I trust the most in this series is Will Sanders. I'm just all in on Will Sanders. I just think he always is going to give South Carolina a chance to win. But Fitzy just made a great point about all those young dudes. This is going to be a lot for those guys to take in. I mean, slowing the game down this weekend, it's not going to be easy. Clemson, I feel like that's the team that has left me at the altar several times over the last several years. I'm just not ready. This is a weekend where I'm really intrigued by Clemson because I feel like I don't know them very well other than they've broken my heart several times over the last few years. I feel like I get excited about them, and then I don't know. It's just been weird. They've had a very weird last 5 years for me, Clemson, compared to, the program of the past. And so all that said, I think it's really intriguing. But hey, Will Sanders, if he wins Friday night, then that gets really hairy, right? Like, okay, now South Carolina's 1 win from winning the series, but we know there'll be fireworks. It's always a good series. Hey, let's go to the West Coast, guys. So Irvine is going to go up to Corvallis, if you will, and they're going to play Oregon State. So we have a little West Coast flavor for you. KP, what are you thinking? Eaters at Beavers.
Well, first of all, I love the fact that you go on the road to play Lafayette to start the season.
Awesome.
I mean, it's a different environment, and obviously it's going to the state of Louisiana is fairly different than going to Irvine, California. So that in and of itself is
or Corvallis.
Yeah, right. Which is it's fairly different. So I think that's a good thing. But Runes, you saw Grand Canyon. I haven't seen them in person, but obviously they had a good weekend against Grand Canyon last weekend. But I think Oregon State is the one. It kind of fits that mold of, okay, let's see them play really good teams and see how good they are, because they have smacked people so far. Yeah. And so you probably start to figure out this weekend how good they are, because Irvine has played some pretty good clubs. I think Grand Canyon is going to be a regional team by the time we get done. I mean, Lafayette's going to be Louisiana. I'm sorry, I know we yelled at by their fans. Is a team that's probably going to be in the mix by the time we get done. So these are the ones that are fun because ultimately, I think you start to figure out more before we get into conference season what exactly they are. But I mean, it's hard to look against Oregon State so far. They have smacked people early, and I think they're probably, at least on paper, better than we thought they'd be good. But I think they're a little bit better than we thought they'd be.
Yeah. By the way, the Louisiana thing is so you just can't win as a member of the media there, right? Because if you say Lafayette, which is what we're all wired to say, then the Louisiana faithful are mad at you. If you say Louisiana, then the LSU fans are all over you because they're not having that. So, or maybe they've gotten over that since. But
well,
anyway.
LSU fans will be mad at you no matter what you call anybody.
Good
That's
point.
right.
Well, Kendall, everybody hates you, so it doesn't matter.
So that's true. Well, I hate them too, so it's even.
I've got my boy Justin LaGrange on Twitter sending me LSU attendance data every time because of a comment I may or may not have made a few weeks ago. But that
attendance
said,
smack is so ridiculous.
Oh, most manipulated. Yeah. If you think the stock market's manipulated, let me show you college sports attendance figures. Fitzy, we digress. Take us back to the Eaters and the Beavers, please.
Like 2007 World Series all over again here.
Ooh, look at you. Good call right there.
Wow.
You know, this is fun because you've got a team, Oregon State, that has just been hitting the cover off the ball. And I think their offense is for real. I mean, I really like the personnel. They also haven't faced pitching like they're going to face this weekend. You know, Frias and Pinto in particular. I mean, you know, those guys know how to pitch. They got experience there. And Irvine, I feel like, is coming in with a little bit of momentum. And Runes, you kind of spooked me on the Beavers last week. So I picked Irvine as the road team here, mostly because of you. So if we're wrong on this, you're taking the fall.
I am trying to catch you in the standings, so just buyer beware.
But you're right. I mean, there are concerns right now about the Oregon State pitching. Do we have an update on Jake Fenning's status this weekend?
Not so. What they've announced, it's a back is what is the rumor, and what they've announced this weekend is Jerpy, and then the freshman Jacob Kamatz, and then TBD. So yeah, not great, Bob. Right? Like that's not. Yeah,
I don't think Irvine is going to come in here and win a slugfest. Like if it gets to be that kind of a game, but I mean, early March in Corvallis, I just don't expect a slugfest. I think it's going to be a sloppy game. I don't know what the weather looks like. I'm just assuming there's not going to be great, hitting conditions up there this time of year. And even though Irvine is a Orange County team, I think they're wired to win a series like that, a low scoring kind of grind it out, manufacturer offense kind of a situation. So I'm picking the Anteaters here.
Love that. KR?
I know it'll shock you guys, but it's supposed to be 48 and rainy in Corvallis tomorrow. I know they've never had that kind of weather before. So I think the biggest thing with Oregon State, Runes, is kind of goes back to the point you made all week, and that's, without Will Fritch and, with their injuries and whatnot with Fennings, not having two of your weekend starters against a top 25 caliber club. Yeah, UC Irvine may not be ranked right now, but that's a top 25 caliber club. And I think they're battle tested after going down to the state of Louisiana. I think they'll be ready, and I like Irvine. I just think Oregon State without their two big guns in the weekend rotation, that's a tough series to win.
Yeah, it's interesting too because these teams have played each other in the past. Both teams were in Game 7 of a regional last year, almost get to a super regional. So I think it's going to have that type of atmosphere. Oregon State, to KP's point, they haven't played any close games, and I think there's a little uncertainty about who is the bullpen. Who's getting the last 9 outs? I mean, Mitchell Verberg is part of that, but he's not a back-to-back days guy, most likely, given his injury history. So I think both clubs will find out a lot. Oregon State will probably learn more about their club this weekend than Irvine will. But, it's fascinating. I think both teams have Omaha upside just because they're both very good, and they both have a style of play that can maneuver through the postseason. So, Kendall, you were called a curmudgeon in the chat window.
That's accurate.
Point that
That's
out.
very accurate.
Yeah. All right, boys.
Bring it, Marquez. Let's go, baby. You better pack a lunch.
Pack your lunch, baby. Hey, so let's each pick. I've got the AAA series here, the kind of the next tier. So I'm gonna have each of us pick one of these. Gonzaga is going to Oklahoma State. The Zags in Stillwater. The Keith LeClaire Classic is Michigan, Maryland, East Carolina, Indiana State. Coastal is playing North Carolina. Hale State is going to Tulane. Santa Barbara, I think, is going to Oregon, if I have that right, but they are playing Santa Barbara and Oregon, somewhere on the West Coast. Northeastern at NC State, TCU at Kentucky, and then that Cambria College Classic up in the Dome in Minnesota. Notre Dame, West Virginia, Kansas, Minnesota, Illinois, Michigan State. Nice little slate there. KP, which of that grouping intrigues you?
Give me the Zags and Oklahoma State.
Yes.
Runes, I know that you love Oklahoma State. You have
Very
made
much.
that abundantly clear. But the Zags have lost 2 games the whole year, and both are to Oregon State, which we've talked about earlier. They swept Fullerton at Fullerton. I think this one's fun. First of all, day one pitching matchup's awesome to start, but there's numbers that are a little bit different, right? The Zags have hit 1 home run. So they've been really good so far. For comparison, Tennessee's hit 25. I know that there's not a direct comparson between those.
The Vols do play in Williamsport, just for the record.
It is very different. I agree. Yeah, we'll let Berkey chime in on that. But yes, and West Coast baseball is very different than the other. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but the reality is it is. And I think you figure it out as the course of the season goes on. But so you've got Oklahoma State, which historically, back to the Incaviglia Ventura days, likes to hit home runs. And you got a Zags West Coast team, and I love the matchup, especially in that environment. So that's the one that to me is cool. And if you're the Zags, it's the best chance that you have the whole year to take a massive jump forward because Oklahoma State's really good. And if you can figure out a way to win 2 out of 3 on the road, at the end of the year, it looks damn good.
I'm telling you, KP, the WCC is putting together a sneaky little 2-bid resume.
Good.
And Gonzaga's part of it, and this would be a capper. And the Zags are built for 3-game series. That rotation of Hughes, Kempner, and Vreeling.
Yeah.
You're talking about 3 dudes that are going to touch a mid-90s number, which you just wouldn't expect out of a WCC club. So that's a really good one. Fitzy, what are you thinking here?
Oh, I'm fascinated by TCU and Kentucky, Runes. Wildcats kind of off to a sneaky good start here. What are they, 8-1, I believe, right now? Again, not the strongest competition, but so far so good for this team. And I think they've got some depth and some balance here. This is the team that I feel like we wondered who was going to be who would emerge from that pack of SEC teams that we did not project as regional teams heading into the year, right? Kentucky, Alabama, Auburn, A&M. These are all teams that all have upside, and I still think that's an open question. We don't know yet which of that group is going to really be the real contender, if any. But I think Kentucky's sneaky. So far they've pitched pretty well, but also it's besides Cole Stupp, it's just kind of a staff that relies on the depth. They can run a lot of different guys out there with a lot of different looks. I do think Tyler Bosma's done a good job fitting in there as a transfer that has a power arm that they like. I think he's been pretty good to help bolster that rotation and eat some innings. But, again, it's like the lineup doesn't have a ton of star power, but I think they've got a lot of different, options that they can kind of match up with and just guys that can put the ball in play. I think the lineup has some length. They've got some speed. They got some pop. This is a great test for them against TCU, a team that's pitched very, very well. We talked about it with that rotation, Krob and Cornelio and Walker. Those guys are pretty good. And so we'll see what that Kentucky offense is made of. Usually, of course, you think of this as an offensive yard, but I feel like runs are going to be at a premium this weekend. So the reality is I think this is going to be a fun series.
Love it. KR? Tex,
I look at Mississippi State and Tulane as the series for me. I just think when you look at Travis Jewett's club going on the road to the Love Shack, doing what they did last week in that doubleheader, that was really impressive. And, this is kind of a team on a mission after last year. And I think when you look at that series and Dylan Carmouche, the Mississippi State transfer, gets a shot at his old team, he's been awesome for the Green Wave so far this year on the mound. And, I think when you look at Mississippi State, this is going to be an illuminating weekend for them. You can talk about a national championship hangover all you want, but if they go a third straight week where they just look sluggish, they don't look great, you have to start kind of seriously wondering, like, hey, is this team even really that good? And I think this weekend will be telling. I will say against Northern Kentucky over the weekend, after Friday, Preston Johnson had a really good start, and then Cade Smith had a really good start. So it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of carry that over to the Big Easy this weekend. So the reality is that's going to be a really, really tough series for the Bulldogs.
Love it. Boys, I'm going to go with what is the dome in Minnesota called now, for God's sakes?
US Bank.
Bank.
US
Thank
Bank.
Yeah,
you.
US Bank.
Can I call it the Metrodome, or am I not allowed
Sure.
to call it the Metrodome?
Well,
Thank you.
It's not there anymore, but you can call it the Metrodome.
Can I call it Veterans Stadium?
Yeah, if you want to find the Metrodome, you're gonna have a hard time finding it.
US Bank. Gosh, what do they call it? The Bank or so? There's got to be a decent nickname for that. Boys, here's what I'm going to tell you. I think we may, after that weekend, start to wonder if West Virginia wasn't the best team in that tournament. West Virginia absolutely has my attention. Now, Notre Dame is playing really good too. But, and I sometimes with these Northern Big Ten teams, I think you almost have to ignore the first 5 weeks of the season, just getting their sea legs underneath them. But, man, West Virginia is on my radar big time. They've got an incredible freshman class. I feel like there's a real sense of urgency and just unhappiness in their program based on last year's really disappointing season. I mean, it just felt like the trajectory of that program was up, and then last year was just a stinker. And they were pretty good in the Big 12 tournament. So that I am just really curious about West Virginia and what do they do that weekend. That'll be interesting. I really like that team. And I like them especially with this kind of angry getup that they got going. All right, next kind of category, sneaky good series. We have Ole Miss at UCF. We've got the Frisco tournament, Washington State, Wichita State, Iowa, Texas A&M. We've got Connecticut going to FIU, who's off to a good start. Southern Miss at Louisiana. Mispronounced. McNeese. Gosh, take my card. McNeese at Louisiana Tech. Bryan at Old Dominion. DBU, Dallas Baptist at San Diego at USD, and Grand Canyon at Cal Baptist. KP, you call the ball. What's the one you like there?
Call the ball. So I think Southern Miss at the end of the year has a chance to make noise. And I saw them in regionals last year, and they get especially offensively, they got a bunch of those guys back. I like their start so far. I think the question was pitching depth, and they've pitched it pretty well so far. They made a lot of home runs, but they're older, or at least they're. And I think it's the one thing you find with, COVID did this to a lot of teams, right? So you go a five-round draft, a lot of kids come back, everybody's older because more guys are coming back. But the reality is, Southern Miss, the non-power five sometimes are just a little bit older than everyone else. Mm-hmm. And I liked what I saw last year, and most of it is back this year. So I think Southern Miss has a chance to surprise some people, and honestly, it wouldn't shock me if we end up talking about them coming to Omaha this year. And so from the beginning, I've been watching them. The start's been good, and I think they got a chance to continue it this weekend.
I love it. I talked to Mike New of Cal this week, and we were talking about Sac State. And to your point, KP, about the older kids, Mike New had a hilarious comment. He said, Sac State has multiple 24-year-olds in their lineup. Like, they're 24. It's like men. They can almost rent a car.
Yes.
I love that. Fitzy, what are you thinking from this tier?
Well, our man, Burke Granger, had a great preview for the Frisco College Classic this weekend. And
you go, Burke.
It's a really important weekend for these programs because you got some teams coming in here that really need to get it going. Wichita State is 2-7. It's a team that we had some expectations for. We thought they would be a real contender in the American, and they still may be. To their credit, they've actually played a very aggressive schedule, right? They started at Louisiana Tech. They played Oklahoma. They played Pepperdine, Iowa. They played some good teams, Oral Roberts. But now you need to start getting some wins now. Let's see what we got here. A&M coming off a series loss at home to Penn, and I know it was that that last game was one of those things where they had a big lead late and Penn just got hot with the bats at the end. But A&M, you'd like to see them get going here. Let's see what they're made of. Iowa, a team that we all liked and we projected as a regional team. They're 4-3, but guys, they lost to some school called Lorax.
The Dewhawks. That's the Mike Ferentz, an alum. Notable.
Doesn't count.
No, it's not. Coach Farron went to Lorax?
Yeah, the Dewhawks.
Did he really?
Oh, yeah. I'm not kidding you. He went to Lorax College in Iowa.
That makes 100%. Me think of the days that Kansas used to lose midweek games at Friends University.
Their nickname is the Dewhawks, and that's for another podcast. but I'll tell you,
How
it's
did I
because they're
not
from
know this?
Dubuque, Iowa.
Is Coach Farron hanging the banner?
Oh, Coach Farron's elated.
Okay.
Oh, he's an
Tattoo?
Iowa
Does
Hawkeye
he have
fan, though,
does he
but
have a
he's excited.
Hawks tattoo?
That's a great question. Stay tuned.
What
We
exactly
will-
is
we
a
will-
Dewhawk?
I was going to
It's
ask.
a hawk from Dubuque, Iowa. So they got a little
Oh,
clever
okay.
there.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
Seems
we
natural.
got Washington State. Washington State's coming in here with a 6-3 record in this thing. They haven't really played a great schedule, but they did go to Hawaii the first weekend and split 4. So it's a team that we know Brian Green is doing a really good job stocking the cupboards there. We all feel like they're headed in the right direction, but all 4 of these teams have a lot to prove, and so my eye will be on Frisco a little bit this weekend.
KR, before we get to you, Fitzy, if you don't mind, if I may, I'd like to. I think you misdiagnosed the end of Game 3 of the A&M Penn series. What actually happened was A&M let a team from the Philadelphia area hang around, and then they just got a full dose of toughness and charisma that they weren't ready for. So
All
just
those local Philly kids on that Penn roster, I'm sure they just.
fueled
Are
by Wawa.
there any Newtown Edgemont kids on Penn's team?
No, the Newtown Edgemont kids aren't getting into Penn, if we're being honest.
You went to Notre Dame. I mean, come on.
Yeah, well,
it's close.
Yeah, there's programs for that. As my dad likes to say, someone's got to finish last in the class, and we were happy to do so. KR, please pick a series from this tier.
I don't know about you guys, but I kind of feel like Ole Miss has kind of quietly been, outstanding the first 2 weeks. I don't feel like many, people aren't really talking about them a lot, but they've been really good. TJ McCants is off to a great start. And I think as they go on the road and play a UCF team, Greg Lovelady's a great coach. And last year they kind of got off track. They weren't kind of the same team that UCF usually is. They're 7-1 now, but they get a big test with Ole Miss coming to town. I think the big storyline for me for UCF is David Litchfield. Their guy has been a closer for them the last couple of years. He's now in their weekend rotation. Gave up 1 run in 7 innings last week. Is their Friday guy going against Ole Miss's lineup. That's a fascinating matchup for me. I was just very curious to see how Ole Miss looks away from home this weekend with all the kind of the fanfare around the number 2 ranking.
Yeah. Boys, I'm going to go Connecticut at FIU. Mervel Melendez is at FIU, and it just has not clicked for him yet. And it's just been shocking. He, built Bethune-Cookman into this powerhouse and then just kind of switched to Alabama State, and then they were the SWAC powerhouse. It was just crazy. It was almost like he just took the automatic bid over with him. And, and obviously his son MJ is like on the cusp of the big leagues, was one of the minor league players of the year last year. So, it just feels like there's no way FIU doesn't at some point get it going under Mervel Melendez. And they're off to a good start. If I'm not mistaken, they're 7-3. And then Connecticut is just this Northeast program that is crazy consistent. I believe they've been to 7 regionals in the last 11 seasons. You think about that for a program in Storrs, Connecticut, that's kind of crazy. They're not in a league where they just get an automatic bid every year. They have to go in the front door. And so I think, Connecticut always plays a tough schedule. So they're a little bit more vulnerable early in the season. So I'm already sold on them, but this is really, they are without Reggie Crawford. And this is a real weekend for FIU to put some hay in the barn, because Connecticut to me is a name brand program in college baseball. So boys, well done. All right, final KP. I figured with you here, let's do a little parlay action. Let's get some action here for this last segment.
Okay.
So we have 15 undefeated teams left in the country, and what we are each going to do is we are going to select a number of undefeated teams on Monday morning. So as we sit here tonight, there are 15. How many will there still be when we wake up on Monday morning? The stakes are this. Whoever wins, it's free adult beverages in Omaha, and then whoever loses, it's like paying a skins bet in golf, as I understand it. So the 3 losers play the winner, the 2 losers play the first and second place winner. So Fitzy will do the math for us at some point down the road. But bottom line, closest to the pin, everyone else is buying drinks for the winner. What do you think about those stakes, Fitzy?
Am I going first?
I think Kyle's buying drinks for all of us anyway. So.
that was kind of my point. Is back to
Kyle
the
can't win.
match report comment. I mean, this is
Chris Burke has to pay. How about that?
Yeah, I would agree.
Chris from Louisville.
Chris from Louisville and Eddie from Miami has to pay on this.
There he goes. What about Scott from Bristol?
That's totally fine. So my number's 5. by the way.
Ooh.
And are we to name the 5 or we
No,
just
just the number 5.
My number's
Gosh,
5.
Okay. So I guess we should do it this way. We cannot pick the same number, right? We got to get off each other's number. Is that fair?
Advantage to go first, Fitzy.
That's right.
Or
Fitzy, you've been
last,
going
man.
second all night, so.
Yeah, I think there's a few more than that. I'm gonna go 7. I think there's a lot of teams here that are unbeaten that don't necessarily still have big tests in front of them, and so yeah, I think a few more than that.
Kendall, everything but 5 and 7 is available.
15 is still available.
I mean, just get aggressive. Remember,
Fire
Kendall,
away.
if you go 15 and you win,
Come on.
I mean, it's just carte blanche in Omaha. I mean, come on.
I get a lot of free beverages.
Free everything. I mean, the world is your oyster.
I'll go with 4.
Dang
I don't think
it.
it's going to be a lot.
Ah, you son of a bucket. That was
Hey.
I liked 4
Hey,
right there.
there's
Here
children
comes the 6
Hey,
spot right here.
This is 12 and under on YouTube, dude. Come on.
That's right. I said bucket. I mean, it's in play, right? So I thought that was in the same neighborhood
My
as Jiminy
8-year-old's probably
Christmas.
watching.
Oh gosh, that's like the old "shut the front door" comment. Like, okay, yeah, that's actually standard English, not what you meant. So okay, so I got to go 6, or I got to go 8, right? Like 6 or 8 plus. I mean, I got to go 6. I got to go 6, right? Have to. Yep, 6. Give me 6. All right, KP 5, Rune 6, Fitzy, you went 7, right?
Yeah.
And KR went 4.
And it's interesting, by the way, that just scanning over this list of unbeatens, we got 4 from the ACC: Clemson, Virginia Tech,
And Wake.
Now, one thing that those teams all have in common is they really haven't played anybody, but they have played well, and so I'll be curious to see how many ACC unbeatens are outstanding. Still not real rugged schedules for 3 out of those 4 this weekend.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'm kind of liking my chances of getting the 0 to 4 here. Like, kind of look at these schedules.
Kendall, the 4 bet is like "Oh ye of little faith."
For the record,
come on.
This is like Price is Right. If you go over,
really
you lose. So the 0 to 4 thing you can put in your pocket. It's either 4 or loss for you.
Okay.
Just to be fair.
Kendall, it's very on brand for you though, because you are accused of rooting against a lot of teams, even though that's patently false.
I should have said 0.
Yeah, you're.
They're all losing.
That would have been great.
Losers.
Oh, that would have been absolutely great. So, boys, very fun. Very, very fun. KP, we enjoyed having you very much. Thank you for everything. That was tremendous.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. Hey, for everyone that's listening, if you are watching us on the YouTube channel, please subscribe. That is really, really helpful. Even if you're not watching on the YouTube, if you spend any time on that medium at all, we would appreciate it. That is a very important metric for a company like ours. So if you can get to the YouTube and subscribe to our channel, the D1 Baseball channel, that is much appreciated. So that is it from here. Gentlemen, well done. Everybody have an awesome weekend 3, and we will catch you next week. Have a good night.
99.